Hello everyone. By the way, my name is Eugenio Jr. Hidalgo Peritos, and I will be discussing about the cognitive development for PJs. A formal operational thinker consists of propositional, relativistic, and the real versus possible. Okay, so when we say cognitive development, it is similarly remarkable as the physical changes in the transitional period of adolescence are changes in thinking patterns. So these changes are marked by the acquisition of new cognitive skills due to the brain's increasing in weight and refining synaptic connections known as the corpus callosum. And another brain development is the process of continuous concentration of the brain cells in the prefrontal cortex and related temporal and parietal areas, technically known as demyelination. Okay, so basically, the cognitive development in adolescence marks the beginning development or the maturation of more complex thinking processes. Okay, so this period can include the abstract thinking as well as the ability to come up with fresh ideas or inquiries on their own. And it can also include the ability to consider many points of view and compare or debate ideas or opinions. So the corpus callosum is responsible for allowing the two hemispheres to communicate with each other and share information. The corpus callosum carries messages between the left and the right hemispheres of the brain, while the myelination it enables the nerve cells to transmit information faster and allows for more complex brain processes. And the myelination process is vitally important to healthy central nervous system functioning. So this second development covers the brain systems whose executive functions relate to attention, verbal fluency, language, and planning. Through brain scanning, three peaks in brain maturation have been identified by neurological scientists, and these are at age 12, 15, and 18.5, coinciding with the operational thinking processes of logical reasoning. So, accompanying brain changes in cognitive capability, the adolescent begins to acquire spatial awareness and formulate abstract or general ideas involving numbers, order, and cause effect. And all these changes propel the adolescent from the world of the sensible and concrete thoughts to the world of the possible and the universal abstract ideas, such as on the generally good, true, and beautiful. Okay, so let's talk about the PJ's formal operational thinker. So, PJ formulated the theory of formal operational thinking, which demonstrates how the cognitive capacity of the adolescent allows him or her to go beyond the sensible and concrete to dwell on what is abstract, hypothetical, multidimensional, and possible. So, in other words, the PJ's a formal operational thinker is during the formal stage, the adolescents are able to understand the abstract principle, meaning they are no longer by what can be directly seen or heard, and are able to contemplate such constructs as beauty, love, freedom, and morality. So while younger children solve problems through trial and error, the adolescents demonstrate the hypothetical deductive reasoning, so which is developing hypotheses based on what might logically occur, and they are able to think about all the possibilities in situation beforehand and then test them systematically because they are able to engage in true scientific thinking. Okay, so this realm of thought, the adolescent begins to attain subtlety in thinking, entering the sphere of possible. More specifically, the formal operational thinking consists in First, the propositional thinking. Next is the relativistic, and the real versus possible. So the propositional thinking, it is making assertions outside visual evidence and stating what may be possible in things not by seen by the eye. So in other words, the propositional thinking is it is claiming things that are not visible to the naked sight, and declaring what might be possible in things that are not visible to the naked eye. So for example is whether an unseen object is red or green, big or small, flat or round. And the next is the relativistic thinking. So, relativistic thinking is subjectively making an opinion. It is an opinion on facts involving one's own bias, prejudice, of distortion of facts, which may be either right or wrong. So, the relativistic thinking, it is a thinking that assumes no that assumes that truth is just a matter of opinion. For example, if a person believes that abortion is morally wrong, then it is wrong for her. So, in other words, it would be morally wrong for example, for Maria to have an abortion if Maria believed that abortion is always morally wrong. So the next one is the real versus possible. So when we say real versus possible, it is examining a situation and exploring the possible in terms of situations or solutions. So the real versus possible, it is examining a problem and considering all the options, all the options for is it an issues or solutions. So the example of the real versus possible is the possible success in implementing a student project. So, um, the best example for this is a student project or a school policy. So for PJ, the one indication of the presence of formal operational thinking ability of the adolescent thinker for combinational analysis, which is he's taking stock of the effects of several variables in a situation, testing one variable at a time and not randomly. So an application of a situation which requires combinational analysis is the school laboratory experiment activity wherein the high school students test chemical elements singly in a combination, resulting in an understanding chemical changes. And a new thought capacity known as the hypothetical deductive reasoning. So the hypothetical deductive reasoning, starting with a general theory of all conceivable circumstances that can affect an outcome and formulating a hypothesis. The hypothetical deductive reasoning includes when making deductions from that hypothesis to predict what might happen in an experiment. So, the hypothetical deductive reasoning emerges in the adolescent reasoning from general facts, situations to a particular conclusion. So the skull pendulum now experiment is one an example of deducing from variables and generating and recognizing a truth expressed by the transitional process of deriving a conclusion from a hypothesis. Okay, so scientific evidence shows that while the adolescents may obtain the capacity for formal operational thinking, only experience and education will allow them to actually practice it. So the school math and science courses, such as in performing physics type problems, certainly help in actualizing formal operational thinking. Okay, so outside formal operational thinking, which can be developed by mathematical and science studies, the adolescent enters into a new capability which makes him a problem solving thinker. So, this involves identifying problems and seeking new and creative solutions for them. So, meaning to say, the problem solving thinker, it is the ability to use knowledge, facts, and data to effectively solve problems. So this doesn't mean that you need to have an immediate answer. It means that you have to be able to think, no, or assess problems and find solutions. The problem finding thinker is one who is able to rethink and reorganize ideas and ask important questions, even defining totally new problems not previously seen. So the adolescent may further experience an increase in depth of thought. Thus, he or she is able to bring what is logically best for everyday life, whether whether or not this may be the objectively correct solution or response to a situation or problem.